Hey mommies, how are you? I hope that everyone is having an awesome day today. So I wanted to invite you to this Facebook Live to watch this because I have a lot of questions that people ask, mommies especially ask me about breastfeeding and about milk supply and how that works as the baby starts to eat and you start to introduce solids. So a lot of different things happen, and I just wanted to explain a little bit about that because also a lot of moms tend to think, or a lot of people also tend to think and advise incorrectly and advise moms that once you start to introduce solids, then all of a sudden, you should stop breastfeeding and that solids should just take over. And that's absolutely incorrect, because if you think about it, just because you start to introduce foods to your baby, it doesn't turn your milk into water, or doesn't mean that the nutritional value of your milk is going to diminish. That doesn't happen at all. The composition of your milk does change once your baby starts to eat solids, but the nutrition and the antibodies and everything that breast milk has is still very much present, even after the baby turns 1 or after the baby turns 2. As long as the baby is nursing and your body is able to produce milk, it'll keep on producing the nourishment that your baby needs specific for that time. So if your baby's a toddler, there are going to be things that your baby or your toddler is more susceptible to, so your breast milk is going to change and adapt to that. So that's a wonderful and amazing thing about breast milk. So I just wanted to explain kind of a little bit about the stages from between like 1 month or 0 days to like 18 months and how milk changes. So what usually happens with your body is once you start to produce milk, so between the first few weeks, first few months of breastfeeding, you tend to have an oversupply. So your body's producing extra milk for your baby because it's still trying to figure out how much milk your baby needs. Obviously, depending on the size of your baby or whatever issues your baby's going through, health issues, is going to determine the amount of milk that your baby's going to need. Okay, so that usually tends to be the time that you tend to suffer a little bit from engorgement or mastitis or clogged ducts or anything like that, because your milk supply is still going to be establishing. So that time is really important if you want to have a healthy and a maximum milk supply. So it's really important that you're feeding your baby on demand, that you're pumping, and that you're storing milk. That way you're letting your body know, okay, I need to make this much milk. So if you are like pumping and feeding, your baby, even if you have like triplets, will make enough milk to feed those babies. So that's a really important thing that happens in the first stages of breastfeeding. Now, once you introduce solids, which usually happens between 6 to 9 months, then you're going to see a decrease in your milk supply. That's because obviously you're not feeding as often. And something else that happens within that time is the developmental stage of your baby. What usually happens, your baby is crawling, he's more active, he's easily distracted too. He's not so much interested in breastfeeding all the time now. He's interested in, hey, what's going on? Who just went past? What's that dog? What's that color? So they are not so interested in breastfeeding, so they're not going to be stimulating your milk production as much, so it tends to have a little bit of a peak. Okay, something else that happens during the 9-month period park is that a lot of moms go back to work, so they get a lot more stressed. Usually they're going to be pumping more, so they're not so much nursing more, and what happens is that output of milk is not enough to stop you from ovulating. So usually moms start to ovulate around that time when they go back to work. And hormones have a big influence in your milk supply. So also if you start like any pills like to help you with not getting pregnant again or anything like that, they usually have a lot of estrogen. So that too is going to cause a peak in your milk supply. So a lot of things tend to happen on the 6-month mark that kind of like take part in that kind of decrease in your milk supply. Something else that happens too is around 6 months, even if you don't go back to work, you as a mom kind of feel like that you're obligated to do a lot more stuff, that your baby's not so little anymore, that he's crawling and stuff, so you have to take care of more of the house chores. It's something kind of psychological that happens within us. So that increased stress too tends to cause a peak in your milk supply. And then what happens is between like 9 to 12 months, your baby's eating even more solids by then. So again, that's going to be less time that your baby's eating. Around that time too, we see that a lot of babies tend to sleep more through the night. So they're not going to be nursing as much at nighttime. So again, that's another reason why your milk supply starts to decrease even more. And then around like the 1 year mark, your baby's going to be taking like probably maybe around 13 to 16 ounces of milk a day, of breast milk a day. Sometimes it can be more, but if it turns to be around that much, then what happens is that there's a decrease in some of the nutrients of the milk supply, and they're going to be more rich now in fat and in iron, because that's what your baby needs. And to compromise, you know, the reduction in his intake of breast milk, the composition of the breast milk changes. And then again, as your baby gets older, so now your baby's getting into being a toddler, he's going to be kind of more exposed to like allergens and you know, viruses and bacteria and stuff like that. So your milk during that time takes a peak, not so much in milk production, but in the richness and immunity of your milk, to help your toddler to be able to fight off all those new things that are happening in his world. But it's really important that for all these things to happen to your milk, if your baby is nursing, you know, at the breast, that's how your baby is able to communicate to your body what he needs or she needs to be able to fight off anything that's going on in their body. If you're just pumping, you don't really get that same effect, because it's through the saliva glands and through the nipple that your body's able to figure out what your baby needs. So those are some of the things that happen. I've been like reading a lot about that too, because I'm going through that right now. My baby is getting bigger, he's more distracted, and I can feel that he's nursing less often and he's more interested in like other things. I try to limit the amount of other liquids that I give him, so that he's not drinking water and getting filled up on water and things like that are not going to provide like nourishment. So I try to, after every feed him, give him breast milk, or if not, I'll pump a little bit of breast milk, and while he's eating, I'll give it to him in a bottle too. And then that way I'm making sure that I'm keeping my supply, because for me it's really important. I want to make sure that my baby feeds, that is still nursing even though he's feeding. So that's something else that is really important. And I just wanted to share that with you mommies. If you have any opinions or any comments about maybe, you know, worried that your milk supply has like dropped drastically. A lot of moms get concerned when they go back to work. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. I can definitely give you some good tips about that when I went back to work, and how I was able to maintain my milk supply. Or if you're going to be away from your baby too, I'm actually going to be doing some of that in a few weeks. So I have some good tips and stuff like that to help you maintain your milk supply. Okay, bye mommies, have a good day.